Today, actually at 1 o'clock down at the Peristyle at the Toledo Museum of Art, Enemy of the Reich, the Noor Inayat Khan story. It's a moving account. Some have called it a moving account of a young Muslim woman who sacrificed her life to combat the brutal domination of Nazi Germany. The reason we bring this to your attention, this movie is starting what will be a month-long effort of creating a compassionate community movement here in the city of Toledo. Joining me, Woody, and also Judy Troutman of the Multi-Faith Council, along with Dr. Samina Hassan, talking about these efforts here in the next couple of weeks. You decided to have this movie, its director, kick this whole thing off. Why?
It's a wonderful story of heroic compassion. People who think compassion is just a kind of fluffy concept will get a change of heart when they see what this woman sacrificed in order to save her second home in France. She was so incensed at having her home invaded that she really eschewed her background of pacifism and took on being a spy for the Resistance and for the Churchill government. And she was a poet. She was the most unlikely spy you could ever imagine. So the courage that she showed is just amazing.
Once again, this happening at 1 o'clock down at the Peristyle. So after our show ends, jump in a car, get down there, see this. When you see a story like this, obviously it hits home for you, but is there a broader message that will definitely reach Toledoans?
I think the story is beyond faith lines, beyond ethnicities. She is of a subcontinent origin and is a Muslim, and she puts her life in jeopardy not just because her home was invaded, but because her neighbors were invaded. And it is to save humanity, which is the crux of the Muslim faith, as it is of the other faiths. So this movie brings it strikes it home to me because as a caretaker of humanity, I think we do cross those lines of compassion towards each other. Yeah. We don't ask when somebody's in jeopardy as to what is your ethnicity, what is your color, what is your faith. We just jump in to help that person. Yeah. And so that is what is compassion. And that is what we need to promote. Instead of promoting homicide and drug dealing and arson, we need to promote goodness so that kids take it as a role model. So she is a role model, right, not just for my background, but a role model for others to follow.
Let me ask you a question, and the questions start to get harder as we get into the second segment, but we've got proclamations, and that's fantastic, but there really needs to be more, and we talk again and again, and we said going into break, we talk about the media involvement in this, and this is a start. This is a start, getting the word out, obviously using vehicles like this today, but outside of just having something on paper, Judy and Woody, and I'll bring you in on this, outside of just having something on paper and leading up to these events, which you guys are, tooth and nail, grinding away, trying to get this stuff ready to roll, doesn't there need to be a bigger voice, don't you think, getting out the word? You talk about youth and getting the message out to them, schools, government. I mean, sometimes we turn a deaf ear to the politicians, but doesn't there need to be a bigger voice out here?
I think so. And to all the agencies who are engaged in one part or another of a compassion activity will be exhibiting at the convention. And since we are trying to get them to network together and to talk together, they will catch the spirit themselves of a movement in town.
Maybe to come together as strangers, yeah, and walk away with a connection made, yes?
That's right. And they may find that they can collaborate together. And so they begin talking and saying, well, here's how we could do much better in all this. So if we can get all those 100 agencies at the convention talking together and catching the spirit of it, then we can begin to have more of a movement among the populace as a whole.
Yeah, you see the date right there, Friday. And these are some of the focus areas that you guys have pointed out. Arts education, streets and homes, intercultural relations, the list goes on and on. Youth engagement, very important there. When you talk about meeting these strangers coming together, Judy, have you talked about the intimidation factor? Just the fact that people by nature cannot stand change. Northwest Ohio is very tough to accept change. And we've talked about that time and time again here on the desk. But how do you get past that?
Well, it is difficult. I was a classroom teacher, and classroom teachers are just sort of rife with this idea of ivory tower. My classroom is my classroom,
Yeah.
and don't make me collaborate. But I think inviting everybody together in a big space like the convention center is a start. And we're planning to have them in sectors. Their tables will be grouped by the work that they're doing. So we'll have
Some of the things the focus areas.
exactly. So we'll have a grouping surrounding one of our serious issues, human trafficking, and Teresa Feder is going to come and speak to that. We're going to have
Former educator herself, obviously.
that's
yeah.
right. And we're going to have a large pod of educators, and so we'll get TPS plus the Catholic schools and some of the academies and the Islamic Academy all together kind of looking at each other so that there's an opportunity right there for informal collaboration. We're going to get some of the housing people there, all the way from Ken Leslie with One Matters, who's dealing with the homeless, to Fair Housing, which are dealing with issues of fairness in how we do housing.
I wanted to talk quickly, say in our remaining moments, and I saw you jotting down some notes as well when I brought up the intimidation factor. What were you going to say quickly?
I was going to say that this is my appeal to the Toledo people, that what we have achieved is a grassroots effort. It is an effort by people like me who are just common, everyday people. And when minds come together, we can fight anything, and we can build anything.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm trying to do, and our organization is trying to project.
People are going to have, you guys, we have had some meetings, and you talked about kind of the portrayal of religion, of community, I guess, membership, nationalities being misportrayed, wrongly portrayed in the media. And that is one of your focuses, that is one of your goals, to have a panel there, a little question and answer session. Why is that so important?
Because I think we need to reach out, and we need to bring people out of their shells, to be able to speak openly, to be able to converse openly about those prejudices which are in existence. So until unless we talk about them, we are not going to overcome them. And you know, we were having a discussion just earlier that it is the power of individuals to come together which is going to bring a change.
Yeah.
And that is what we're trying to do.
We want to point out a couple of these events as well. Just in about a half an hour's time down at the Peristyle, that movie we have been talking about. I am checking my notes. Enemy of the Reich, the Noor Inayat Khan story happening down at the Peristyle. And then, of course, all of this culminates into April 25th down at the Seagate Center between noon and 8 o'clock. Inviting everybody. We will talk about it more. Go ahead.
Yeah, what I also wanted to say is the other reason this movie was so important is because the producer of the movie, who's Michael Wolff, happens to be one of the board members of the Global Compassionate Council. So the Compassionate Action was an idea by Karen Armstrong, not an institution, but one person.
We're going to have to let that be the last word. But Woody, Judy, and also Dr. Hassan, thank you so much. We will continue to talk about this event in the days to come. We'll be right back.